Well, we have another Rovers legend with his 1 to 11 now, a man who was Rovers Player of the Year all the way back in 1979, Robbie Gaffney. That's a long time ago. You went on to play for UCD, Shell, St. Pat's, and briefly with Kilkenny as well. But I know everybody who's watching this knows that Rovers runs through your veins and you're a Rovers man through and through. You did win the cup with UCD, beating Rovers in the final. That must have been a strange day for you, was it?
Oh, Con, it rates as the weirdest. I mean, particularly my old buddy was beside me when we lifted the cup, Alan O'Neill, and like Naylor and I went back after the cup final, Con, and we went back to the Montrose.
Yeah.
And now you picture, meanwhile, if this had been a Rovers event,
yeah.
you know, like whatever, we went in there and there was people eating their Sunday dinner, you know, that way.
Yeah.
And somebody said, "Oh, they won a match today," you know that way. This Con, it was surreal, honestly. I mean, particularly both myself and Naylor. I mean, I was the local boy. I lived 10 minutes from the ground.
Yeah.
And for me, I had then to go and meet all my mates, all the family, all the, you know, and I got the worst congratulations ever, Con. It was like, well done, Robbie. Yeah, well done. Yeah, and left it at that. You know.
Yeah, yeah.
Now,
and when you're playing in a match like that, Robbie, against Rovers, and it's such an important game, obviously, I suppose you're professional enough not to sort of misplace passes on purpose or, you know, do anything. Like you still want to go out and win the game for the team you're playing for, I suppose.
Oh no, absolutely, Conor. I mean, in fairness to Tony O'Neill, the late great Dr. Tony O'Neill, and this was a dream come true for him, and he had signed myself and Alan, and I mean, we actually had a decent side, one of these decent sides that were very difficult to play against, and when we drew Rovers, I mean, this is the great 4-in-a-row team, and like players in every department were stronger than us, but there was a sort of a togetherness with the UCD team that was difficult to explain, Con. They didn't have the Pat Burns, and they didn't have, you know, the Mick Burns and Noel Larkins and whatever. They just didn't have that. But in certain areas, they had key players or whatever. So when we went out that day, now the first game, Con, we played the first game in Dalymount. It was 15,000 at it. It was probably the worst cup final ever, you know, ever. Tolka was different than the replay. Yeah. And when Ken O'Doherty scored then, and I think it was the 92nd minute, it was game over. Like, I couldn't believe it. You know, it was like, I don't believe this.
I'll never forget. I was over the far side of the ground watching that goal go in, and I still nightmare.
And it was, and Con, it was slow motion stuff. It went in, and it was hard to believe, you know. And even when myself and Naylor went back, whatever, it was surreal feeling. But it was great to win a cup. Don't get me wrong, it was brilliant. But I was just saying, could you imagine? We wouldn't have got out of Tolka if it had been the reverse. You know, we wouldn't have got out of it. We wouldn't have got to a reception. You know? Yeah. But
the other thing is, I suppose, for people maybe who weren't around in those days, and they think of UCD now, and it's always a team of kind of young 18, 19, 20, 21-year-olds. In those days, the mixture of young, I know you fellas like Paddy Dunning at the back and yourself and Alan O'Neill, it was a real mixture. And even the way you went on to play Everton in Europe after winning the cup and you know, holding them to a 0-0 draw and stuff shows you how that mixture worked. It
was, I don't think you'll see the likes of that, Con, ever again, because there was a great moment. We trained in UCD before we trained at Belfield before the Everton game. And the slant that the Doc and Theo Dunn were putting on it is we were all students, right? Yeah. So they ran up to me. Now, it was great. See, Alan O'Neill was different because he was Department of Education, and you'd see he had the sort of the third level, you know? Yeah. So they had to run to me to say, if your man Archie McPherson BB asks you, tell him you're doing engineering. You're just doing you're a mature student doing engineering. So I had to, you know what I mean? Because they were putting the slant. These were purely students. Yeah. And that kicked off, Con, at the end of the game in Goodison. My son Jason, excuse me, Con, who's Rovers fanatic, Jason Gaffney. He was born that night before the game.
Ah,
So
really?
I legged it from the Coombe, got the 8 o'clock flight, got to Goodison, played the match, beat 1-0, could have gone through on away goals, which is hard to believe because they went on to win it that year.
Yeah.
But I went into Howard Kendall then I had to bring back something, Con. Like Gwen had given birth and I was gone. In fact, I took the tea and toast out of the Coombe, you know.
That's unbelievable.
Real, yeah, you never get away with it now, Con. But I went in to get the jersey signed and the program and so on, and he was berating them, saying, "This is a bunch of students from Dublin, you know that way, taking us this." So it is. You won't see the likes again. It was just these real enthusiastic. Now you had the likes of Martin Moran, who's been at UCD for 100 years, you know, and Keith Dignam, who really, really good players and whatever.
Yeah.
But then you had a lad, Johnny Cullen, whatever. It was surreal. So these lads couldn't believe it. They're in Goodison. Con, you think about League of Ireland lads who waited all their life for these big fixtures.
Yeah.
And for some of these, it was, whatever, bring it on, you know.
Yeah. I mean, that Everton team was very good, wasn't it? I mean, it would have had, as you say, they went on to win the thing.
It was full of internationals, from Southall in goal to Andy Gray and Graham Sharp, Peter Reid in the middle, Con. You know,
you were up against him, were you?
I went against him. There's a great YouTube moment of me nutmegging Peter Reid. I wonder, does he say it in his local Con? And then I saw him chasing Maradona the following year, you know, with the guy. It was surreal stuff. But again, Con, there was a mad moment as well in that game where they had police in the away end. So, but UCD only had one man and his dog, you know what I mean? And the away end was empty. And I'm just saying, look what happened in White Hart Lane when Rovers got Tottenham, you know? There you go. Chalk and cheese, Con. Never seen it. It won't happen again, I don't think.
But listen, you did the league proud. As you say, you were a kick of the ball away from knocking them out. So that was a good team. Obviously, the Rovers team you played with was although it wasn't that successful in the league, there were a lot of very good players in that team, and you did win the cup in '78. St. Pat's and Kilkenny. So you have a lot of good players to choose from. I know you've been thinking about this 1 to 11.
Yeah. Oh, Con.
So
it's only now. It's surreal. However,
will we go with the goalkeeper first?
Well, I think it's a given who I'm going with.
I know you're going to say.
Well, and it's funny, when I joined Rovers, we became very good friends. Even to this day, we have our Christmas get-together. But I thought, as I call him, Big Alan O'Neill, was head and shoulders for me, Con, the best League of Ireland goalkeeper that I've played with. And remember, at the same time, this young Dave Henderson, who went on to really well. He was also Rovers as well at the time.
Yeah.
And, but in the league, then you Jody Byrne, Richie Blackmore, and so on. But I thought Naylor, Con, was brilliant, a real pro, and looked out himself, commanded the area. In every area, I think he covered it. He was a terrific goalkeeper. I mean, you look effectively his performance, and if you go back to that UCD Cup final or whatever, he was professional that day as he would be for any other game. You know, he was brilliant, and he was brilliant against Everton. So you could do it, and I was delighted then he was recognised with a cap or two, I think it was at the time. But
the thing about Alan is, if you were to compare him now to say the goalkeepers at the very highest level, they all be like 6'3", 6'4", man in the air. He wasn't like, he was what, about 6 foot-ish. He was that. If he was six, he was 6-ish, if you know what I mean. Yeah. But there was a presence about him, Con. He made himself very big. He made himself, like, I saw him saving penalties, which was a forte of his as well. He could, he'd read out the striker or whatever. But his overall game and his shot stopping was terrific. So Alan O'Neill, head and shoulders. Great. Okay, that's your first player in. In terms of the layout of the team, have you 4 at the back or 5? I 4 at the back. I 4 at the back, Con. Yeah, old school. Yeah, 4 at the back. Now, so I'm going right full. Yeah. Now, right full. Well,
This is the one now, Con, when you were in touch with me, and I said, right, and I immediately had, for example, I put Harry Kenny down straight away. Then I said, no, hold on, Con Gay, yeah, because Harry was a terrific fullback.
Yeah.
I played in a couple of League of Ireland selections with Eamon Gregg. He was terrific. I also played with League of Ireland selection with Martin Lawler. Brilliant, whatever.
Yeah.
But the one player that stood out with me, Con, for right back is Curtis Fleming.
Right.
Yeah, it's Curtis Fleming. So I'm giving Curtis. And the reason, Con, as well for it was, I knew when Brian Kerr had signed me for Pats and we went training, it was only after about a week or 2 weeks in training that you could see this lad has something about him.
Yeah.
And he was terrific, Con. And I think it was a year after the first year I broke the leg in Limerick. But while you're off, you could see the amount of scouts that were turning up for him. You know what I mean? But by all accounts, he had to go through the hard rock. You know, the Aberdeens and the whatever were all looking, and then eventually he got a contract at Middlesbrough, and he didn't look out of place with the Ravanellis and so on. So I just knew with this lad there was something about him. So Curtis Fleming.
And was he very young at that point, Robbie?
Yeah, he was. He would have been 20 when I was at Pats. He was around 21, 22. Right. You know, now in some regard, he would have said he's missed a boat, but he hadn't. Brian had done a brilliant number on him to get him right and focus, and he didn't look out of place, Con, when he went over to the Premiership or the Championship, whatever it was at the time. He didn't look out of place. He was with top players. So
and I mean, obviously, he went on to win loads of international caps and
absolutely, yeah, and fans' favourite over there as well. Yeah. So I mean, it was a difficult one with Harry, Eamon Gregg, Martin, but just Curtis jumped out. So Curtis Fleming. Okay.
Curtis Fleming. Of course, Gregg got full international caps as well.
Yes, he did. Gregor did. A great lad. Still friendly with him.
We go left back.
Left back. Another. I'm going to Rovers here, but I'm going to temper it by saying that in fact, there was 2 Rovers players stood out for me, Con, on it. One was Johnny Cody of the 4-in-a-row team. Yeah. And I just thought Johnny Cody was terrific. Now, I was trying to think, Con, he left at one period. He went to Chelsea because myself and Alan O'Neill went over for one of his games. I was telling him at a Player of the Year reunion, and he wasn't picked, so I don't know where myself later we're looking for him. But I thought Johnny Cody was good. I also played with Martin Moore, Con, and like Martin was 100 years, I think, at UCD, and while Martin was a dying wool, he was a brilliant athlete, Con. Honest to God, nothing fazed this guy, you know. And going back to that UCD one, whatever, he probably marked the Player of the Year at the time, which was Neville Steedman, out of the cup final over the 2 legs, you know.
Right. Yeah.
Which is a huge contribution. So Martin was well, I'm going for Jim Beglin, Con. He arrived on the scene, and he was, for me, he was poetry in motion in terms of this kid had it all. Not a bit surprised then. And again, similar to Kurt, went to Liverpool, didn't look out of place. Yeah. And he was terrific. And I mean, he was playing with the Hansons and all. And if you look at Jim, Con, at the time, there was a sort of a certain swagger about Jim as well. Brilliant move, you know, never hoofed the ball. Everything was picked out and clinical. So Jim Beglin was my fullback.
Yeah, I mean, Jim, again, he had a great career with Liverpool, with the Republic of Ireland. He had that terrible injury, which I know he went on to play with Leeds and stuff, but that injury early on, like relatively young in his career, kind of really finished him in a way. Finished it.
It was a real shame, Con. We'd always keep an eye on Jim, but he was, I just thought, in Milltown, in the green and white shirt, he was terrific. Yeah. I mean, you look at him and John Cody, class acts, you know?
Yeah. Well, when you look at the players that he's got in the team ahead of, it shows you.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Yeah.
2 centre halves then. Who will we go with first?
As I call him, our number 4. Now, again, here we go with the I was lucky, Con. to play at the tail end of his career with Johnny Fulham, and people just couldn't. You just couldn't underestimate this. This lad was brilliant at the time, and he was coming near the end. He 5'8" or 9" or whatever, could jump like a salmon or whatever. He's a real pro. He was there, but along came this whippersnapper, Noel Sinnott, and Noel Sinnott then stepped up to the plate, Con, and he was a real good Rovers player, in a team that was in the beginning struggling, but he stood out. And once Giles got a hold of Noel Sinnott, Con, Noel transformed. I mean, he became a brilliant player, a really good centre half, and he was capped. He was capped at a decent level. And you think about some of the players, like I played at the time with Johnny McDonnell, with Pats, Mick Moody, whatever, real strong, whatever player. But I'm going for Noel Sinnott on where he started when I knew him to where he progressed. So Noel Sinnott, yeah.
Okay, tough, good in the air, tough player. I wouldn't like to have been a centre forward playing against him.
Absolutely, really, real great pro, pro.
Yeah. So who's going to partner him at centre back then?
Now, at this one, I'm going for. Now, I could have gone. And I thought about him, and he went on as well. I could have gone for the likes of Ken O'Doherty. Ken had a short enough League of Ireland career, but when he was there, he was terrific. Con. He was as tough as nails and a brilliant competitor. But I've gone for Damien Byrne, who I played with the Pats. Yeah. I thought Damien Byrne Con was a real leader. He's a real leader because Brian had, I don't know, I'd love to pick Brian's brain on how he went about formulating, getting him, because there was a lot of players in that Pats team, the Pat Kelch and so on, the Curtises and the Johnny McDowell, they were all young lads.
Yeah.
But he brought Damien in, and there was a certain presence about him. I don't think I ever saw him playing a bad game, Con. That's how I someone ever. Now, in fact, I don't know if he was even recognised in League of Ireland selections. I
think he might have been. I couldn't say for sure. Did he go to Drogheda after Pats?
Yeah, or was Drogheda before? Was
before one or the other?
Yeah. But he was a terrific player. And I played a couple of games in Europe with him against Hearts and Steaua Bucharest and whatever. And he just looked a real player, Con. Yeah. And for me as a centre half, he'd be one you'd want in the trenches with you,
Right, yeah. If I'm not mistaken, Robbie, I don't know, you might be able to correct me. I think Damien Byrne might have broken his leg at Milltown in a game.
Yeah, I think you're right. Now, I think that was when he was with Drogheda.
Is that Drogheda? Yeah.
Yeah, I think that was Drogheda. Yes. Yeah. But and it was funny, Con, I didn't know, the way when in the League of Ireland circuit you get to know, I didn't really know Damien, you know what I mean, off the field. You get to know lads that whatever, whenever do. It's only when you were when you were training with him, you could see he was a proper player. So Damien Byrne.
Again, like with Noel Sinnott and Damien Byrne, it's a credit to them when you consider some of the fellas you've had to leave.
Oh, I've just named fellas that it's incredible. Like, but it's only when he gave me the option then of lads, I said, right, I'll go outside the box on this.
Yeah. What are you doing in midfield? Is it 3 or 4 in midfield?
4 in midfield, starting on the right-hand side, Con. And this is a lad that I don't know if he ever got the true recognition that within the league that he deserved.
Yeah.
And he came over from West Brom with Giles. He played for, I think I played one of his first games. We played away to Dundalk in a as they call it at the time, the Bass League Cup, whatever. And Stevie Lyonix took on what was then regarded as the best fullback in the league, Martin Lawler. And Stevie Lyonix took Martin up to their shed end several times and back. And it's just the most honest to goodness right winger with pace. He could use both feet or whatever. And it was only really the Rovers brethren at the time that would have seen, you think pre-Linux, the nearest to him was Frank O'Neill or whatever. In terms of what, so Stevie Linux was me right.
He was the one that was fouled in the '78 Cup final.
Yes, he was
brutally fouled.
Brutally, outrageously. Yeah, a brilliant decision by John Carpenter at the time. Yeah.
And come here, did Neville Steedman come into your thoughts at all for right side? No.
Straight away, but I had a whole list here of it, and I'll tell you as I go through it. But Neville straight away. Neville was revelation. I mean, we played against Neville Con with Rovers when he was with Thurles Town.
Yes.
You know, the next thing is he's playing Milltown, and he's possibly the player of the year or whatever. And the reason I went for Stevie was Stevie didn't get the look. If he'd have been on that Rovers 4-in-a-row team, well, he'd have been an absolute star. You know, so I went for Stevie because sometimes he's a little bit forgotten, but for those that both saw him and played with him, he was a terrific lad.
So we go left side then.
Left side. Now, Con, this, I mean, when I go left side, it wasn't necessarily in brief, but I looked at some of the lads I played against and played with. Paul Doolan, Gino Lawless, Liam O'Brien, pure, quality. Now they could have easily slotted in the middle of the middle, but I went for Joe Hanrahan off UCD. Extraordinary player, Con. Again, was a UCD, came through the scholarship program. A real powerful athlete, a real powerful athlete. He really looked after himself. I mean, you have to understand, he went to Manchester United. Ferguson wanted him, and got him. Now, I don't know. There's all sorts of talk what happened in Old Trafford. I think Joe wanted to pick the team in the end. That is the word. But the point I'm making is he was a terrific left-sided player, and I mean, even when he played against Everton over to two legs, they had Gary Stevens, I think, was their fullback, and Joe put it up to him over two legs, no problem. Con, the greater the opposition for Joe, the better. So Joe Hanrahan. So
and actually, if memory serves me correctly, I think when Alan O'Neill was picking his 1 to 11, he had Joe Hanrahan in the team as well.
Did he? There you go.
That's a credit to Joe.
Didn't know that now. Yeah. So Joe Hanrahan. And
Gary Stevens, actually, the little link there is he's the fellow who broke Jim Beglin's leg playing for Everton against Liverpool. So you have two centre mids then, and again, you've already named a couple of names. You've so many players to choose from.
Honestly, how do you leave Paul Doolan, Liam O'Brien, Gino Lawless, or something out of it? And I'm putting in, which for me was the best League of Ireland player that I played in League of Ireland selection, and it's Pat Byrne. Con, when you talk about Pat and you look at Jack today doing this, this was Pat. Pat was Jack. Jack was Pat. It's a mixed bag. Pat Byrne, I don't know. It's all been said about him, Con, from a League of Ireland point of view. And I was looking, as I say, I think I had a League of Ireland selection once with him away in Italy or somewhere, but and played against him. He was a class act.
And again, there'll be a lot of younger people who won't have seen much of Pat because there's little video nowadays, from then compared to nowadays. It's such a big right?
Yeah, absolutely. He was brilliant, as I say. But all in Section E, where we look at the Rovers games or whatever, they marvel at Jack Byrne. And rightly so. He is a class act, whatever. But Pat was doing it in Milltown and Mucky Fields in Thurles and and he was brilliant. He was everything: left foot, right foot, delivery of free kicks, goal, score goals he scored. He has to rank in that chapter and era. As I think it's been recognised anyway, Con. And look who we had around him. Like with Liam O'Brien and Paul Doolan on that 4 in a row team.
Yeah.
That was some formidable outfit.
Amazing. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Great team.
Yeah.
So who's going to partner him in the centre of the mid then?
Now, again, I don't know if I mean, he'd come to the end of his days with me, was Johnny Giles or whatever. I was steeped. I was waxed that this man had come over to Rovers and put me, for example, in his team and selected me. I idolised Giles. Anyway, off the pitch, he was one of the great, him, Brady and so on, just synonymous with. And here he was in Milltown in his training. And I think Alan O'Neill once said his attention to detail was unbelievable, whatever. But I can't pick him on the basis that he was 38 and I was coming near the end. But I was hugely privileged to get, the opportunity to play with him. Yeah. Then I fought between Liam O'Brien, Paul, Gino, whatever. But I went for what I thought was a terrific midfield player. I mean, I think I played with him against Steaua Bucharest, and it was the nearest thing to, I'm going to say Xavi and Iniesta, because it was 5'5" and 5'6" of nothing in the middle against Timofti, who missed the penalty against Paki Bonner. Right? Yeah. So we had Steaua Bucharest, and that was Pat Fenlon. He was a class act, Con. He could pick passes out. Another similar to Pat is delivery. His striking of a ball, Con, was terrific.
Yeah.
Like I put him in. He probably won't recognise this, but I put him in when he scored against Steaua Bucharest. He beat the Romanian international with a left foot. Top left-hand corner, top drawer stuff. So I'm going for Pat Fenlon. Now it's it. So
that's. I mean, I'm actually a bit like John Giles as well in terms of having that little bit of naughtiness as well. That he looked after himself.
Pat Nutsy Fenlon. I mean, absolutely. I think he was grumpy at every game. In the early days, Con. In the early days, I never saw anybody taking in and putting contact lenses in and out or whatever. But he used to get grumpy putting contact lenses in. That's how he was just grumpy, But when he got on the pitch, he was just a match winner, and he was a brilliant player, So
and despite that demeanour that you talk about, he's actually a great guy. Like I obviously do a bit of free with him now at Air Sports, and he's a top co-commentator as well. Great to work with.
Yeah, and have a look, Con, wherever he went, whatever, and he, and games that he played in and played whatever, people would say that seen him at the time because he was a terrific player. He lovely way of picking out passes and so on. So I'm going for Pat Fenlon. Okay,
well that's a great midfield. It only leaves you with two players up front. Robbie.
Yeah,
we take the first one.
Well, the two, for example, Con, that unfortunately I wasn't lucky to play with. Whatever, I wasn't good enough for was the two that I didn't play with, but I think I played with Mick in the League of Ireland selection, but was Mick Byrne and Noel Larkin, right? But I didn't play with, if you know what I mean. So then I had to take, but they were just a double act. They were killers. They were class, whatever. And when we again go back to that, UC, just for us to stop them scoring at the time, you know what I mean, against us was in itself a feat. But
absolutely.
Then I looked at Brendan Bradley. I used to admire this guy, Brendan Bradley, off Finn Harps, Con. No recognition. Apparently his goal ratio was terrific.
Yeah.
Pat Morley off Cork, terrific. Brilliant goal scorer. But the two I went for, Con, were my sort of spearhead, and that's Alan Campbell, and Liam Buckley.
Right.
Yeah, I just couldn't.
They were a great partnership.
They were a brilliant partnership. Con, when I played with them in Milltown, everything that went in, Bucko would score, with the head. But Campbell had unbelievable pace, and I was going between them because I didn't play with Noel and Mick Byrne, if you know what I mean. Whereas I did with the other two lads.
Right.
I said, for me, they were great. And funny enough, Con, again, both of them were recognised, and both of them went away to play. One in Spain and one in Holland, I think. Santander.
That's a good point. Like in at a time where very few Irish players went to play in Europe. You know, linked off to, was it Belgium, I think, originally, and
absolutely,
Spain as
like,
well. So
you think what I was saying there earlier about the likes of Brendan Bradley. Like, I don't know Brendan Bradley from Adam, but I knew he was a brilliant League of Ireland player. And when he finished, he probably went to play with Glenties or something like that.
Yeah.
Alan Campbell and Bucco, you know, both went foreign because they were good enough. You know, so they're my two.
Yeah, I mean, again, they did a brilliant job for Rovers when they were playing.
They were great.
Liam Buckley, again, for a fella who wasn't like 6'3", he was in the air. He had springs in his legs, you know. Yeah,
well, I saw him, Con, and it was funny. One of the European games we had with Rovers away, we played Fran Reykjavik away in Iceland. And Iceland, it's only now when you see them, they're synonymous with big blonde guys, you know, big, tough guys, whatever. And Bucco played away in Iceland. I don't know if he scored, if the ball went over the line and Tommy Gaynor, I'm not quite sure, but Bucco gave a brilliant European performance that day away against tough lads. And the majority of it, Con, was in the air. You know, that he was a brilliant header of the ball. Brilliant. Yeah. So they're my two.
Right. My dishwasher is beeping away in the background. It needs to be emptied now, Robbie, if you're in the area. And one last thing before I let you go, because, I mean, when you look at that team, Alan O'Neill, a back four of Curtis Fleming, Noel Sinnott, Damien Byrne and Jim Beglin. Midfield, Steve Lynix, Pat Byrne, Pat Fenlon, Joe Hanran, and Alan Campbell and Liam Buckley up front. I mean, it's a mega 1 to 11. It's a great team. When you compare when you were playing, say in the 70s and into the 80s, with the football in the league now, how is it much different, or, you know?
I can't. I think it's only now I see it. I mean, maybe as the years have been going on, but I'll give you an example, Con. I was very lucky recently. There was a mental health awareness program, and my boss in the job asked me, could I arrange it? So we went up to Roadstone to see Rovers train.
Yeah.
And so we watched it, Con, with 4 13-year-old kids, the boys were watching, and then Jack Byrne and McAniff and Joey O'Brien in particular were looking after the whole occasion. But what I noticed, Con, was in the training program alone, it was 2 notches up, I think. Yeah, if really, not 2, certainly 2. Right, I call it then, to be kind, 1.5 notches up. The pace from everybody was phenomenal. You know, I'm talking about it was a different league, and I think it's played at a totally different pace today, Con.
And even, I mean, the facility at Roadstone in terms of the surface that they're training on, like I looked at some old footage of you guys training under Giles, and it's on a bumpy old grassy field in UCD or wherever it was. And I know the pitch at Milltown was pristine, but training just wasn't.
Oh, no. Training wasn't. Training was the car park or the Belfield Bowl or whatever, and it was mucky, Con. It was a nightmare. The lads are lucky, and the pitches and all, but there's something about it now. It's a notch above, and it's great pay. By the way, it's a great product. You know, it's a great product.
Yeah. No, I can't wait to get back to it now. I'm so missing it. I'm sure you are too.
Absolutely. Well, there you go.
Look, I could actually talk to you probably for at least another 2 hours easily. This thing only allows me 40 minutes, and we're getting very close to that now. So
great stuff, Colin.
We'll have to wrap up. But Robbie, listen, it's great talking to you, and please, God, fingers crossed, we'll see you up and
absolutely, Con. In regards to your dad, Con, please.
Thanks very much indeed, Robbie. Really appreciate it. Thanks a million.
Great Rovers, man. Take care, Con.
Thanks very much.
Bye.
Mind yourself.